Hey, welcome back to our Star Wars 5th Edition Beginner's Guide. Today I'm going to be talking about a class that I happen to be playing, the Scout. So I had started out playing in Bunkers and Badasses as a Deadeye Hunter. So I was very much focused on distance shooting, sniper rifles. That was my approach. And when we transitioned from the Bunkers and Badasses system over to using a Star Wars system for our Borderlands game, I wanted to create something similar. Looking into the system, Scout seemed like a pretty good choice. Let's talk basics. Now, if you're familiar with D&D, this is essentially the Ranger. You've got your idea of a Ranger's quarry. You can choose to be either a player that focuses on upfront melee weapons or maybe more of a distance ranged character. So for your primary statistic when you go into this, you're looking at strength if you're going up close and personal, or if you're a ranged character, looking at dexterity. Secondary is usually recommended to be an intelligence, and a lot of stuff uses wisdom as well. So those wind up being a lot of your 3 strong stats. These scouts have a die 10 hit dice, which is pretty good. Although, given you're going to be putting abilities into dex or strength and intelligence and wisdom, you're probably not going to have a lot of points left over for constitution. So it's a good thing you have a high hit dice because you probably don't have a very good con modifier. When I started creating it, I was looking at creating a ranged character. So I went heavy into dexterity. I went heavy into intelligence and wisdom. That was my 3 places. Dumped in charisma because my character was supposed to not be particularly great at any of that stuff anyway. So it fit character-wise. Regardless of what type of scout you have, you're going to have your Ranger's Quarry, which lets you have a target and you do extra damage on them and you can track them well and a couple of the things. And early on, you also get Pathfinder, which is essentially you're great out in the wilderness. You don't get lost. You can track stuff, find stuff, forage, move through difficult terrain. An interesting note on this Pathfinder is that when you get into ship combat, there's actually an ability that you can take that allows you as a scout to use your Pathfinder for your ship. Now, outside of a scout being kind of damage character, they're interesting in another way in that they also do something called tech casting. So if you're in a more fantasy setting, this would be being able to have access to spells. But this is done through technology. So you have like a little wrist pad and you can add some extra cool stuff onto your attacks or just make stuff happen. For a beginner's guide, I don't want to get into the tech casting too much, but just to say that there are lists of things that you can do at will, meaning at any time, and others that are higher levels that can do more cool things with your attacks. I personally, as a ranged attack character, was choosing ones that would allow me to make ranged attacks as part of them so that I could layer it on top of my character really well. Also, when you get to higher levels, like 3rd level, you get to actually have things like routines and techniques and all these terminologies that are added in, which allow you to basically flavor your character beyond the basic scout progression. So you could build 2 scouts that are in no way alike. That's, I think, a really cool feature of having all these extra knobs, but it does make it more complex as a new person trying to figure out, oh, wow, there's just so much to pick from. What do I choose? Here's my hint. Ignore it all. Don't look at all the options. Think first, what is my character? What would they do? That'll allow you to whittle down a lot of the options because you look at it and go, no, that's not my character. That's not my character. That's not my character. And then you'll see the option that fits right for you. In the end, if you like being able to do damage, but you also like to have a bit of a support role in the group and be able to help other characters as well, Scout is a really good choice. Next time, I'm going to be going back to something I should have covered first. What are all these books that you can get with Star Wars 5th Edition?